And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ammon Bogus Hangout. I'm going to have our guests introduce themselves. Start with Zara. I know she loves it.
Every week, Bill. Hi, everyone. I'm Zara Altair, and I write for the web.
Terry.
Gary Van Horn, Toronto, Ontario. I'm retired.
Thomas.
Thomas Sickle, founder of Blueprint Marketing, MTI PolyX.
Doc.
Doc Sheldon of Intrinsic Value SEO and Web Narwhal.
Steve.
Steve Grinter with Web Narwhal now.
And I'm Bill Slawski of SEO by the Sea, and I'm the Director of SEO Research for Go Fish Digital. So, what's new in the world of SEO, everyone?
A lot.
We have
A lot of good
Yeah,
stuff.
we have
So, the Pagespeed Insights tool has been updated to show a lot more data, which I'm excited about.
I heard something that was remarkable. It seems like if you make words in web pages bold, you increase their SEO scores. Is this
I
Yes,
remember
that.
when those were the only things for
It
on-page
makes sense.
SEO. It's
That's
ridiculous.
some cutting edge,
People don't
cutting edge, man.
know that.
wasn't it
1992
cutting
called.
edge 20 years ago?
Yeah,
You about
still, it's one of the few that still works today, right? Did
Well,
it
pretty
say
well
if,
everything on page still works. It just doesn't do what it used to do. So
I think-
it still helps. It just doesn't help as much because there's more things that they're looking at. So you can only optimize so much, right? So once it's 100%, you got it all, right? So when there's more things filling up the hole,
the weighting has to diminish, yeah.
that's
I
right.
thought Google always looked at bigger fonts as something that you meant to be more important. And hopefully if it's the right thing that's made important, it would make sense for it to have more weight.
So if I put a strong tag at the start of the page and a closing strong tag at the end of the page, everything's optimized?
No. It has to
you'll
be
be
the
right.
right words.
You'll be ranking #1 in no time at all like that, Bill.
I tried that in clear text on mine, didn't work. And that should have been a double
We
win.
did years ago prove that you can't use it too much. Or it
So
does
I had
nothing
a
at all.
question that popped into my mind when I read that, and that was, when you're looking at text and things are bolded. I don't know. It looks spammy to me, but maybe that's just me. When lots of
Well,
people
if there's too much of it,
like
yeah.
it,
But
not like the headers or any of
it
that.
actually didn't start out as a SEO thing. Before Google was even around, we used it so that the page is more scannable. But when people scan the page reading it, those things jump out at
The
them.
bold things
They
jump
may
out,
stop
right?
and read the whole thing a little bit slower.
Yeah, there was a Jacob Nielsen article on reading for the web, which
Yeah.
talked about making content that was more scannable and more easily read on monitors. They included things like using headings and using bolded lists and unbolded lists and bold. It made sense. You make stuff more readable, it's more likely someone will come by and read your page.
But it's also those same things, right? Google realized that webmasters were doing that so that what the content was about stood out and made it easier. So they made it part of the part of the algorithm for deciding relevance.
Because everybody
Right.
loves reading walls of text.
Just like to the best of my knowledge, even if you have an H1, if you have larger text than the H1, it doesn't have to be an H1 tag. As long as you have the larger text at the top, I believe that makes more of a difference than an actual H1 tag, which normally has the largest size font for CMS or most tools that are used today. It just has to be the correct size.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would have to argue against that one, I think.
I think it could be disputed, but I've read quite a bit that says it can be. It'd be interesting to do a test.
I'm always interested in where you read stuff like that.
There are at least
if it
half a
starts
dozen
with an M
patents
and ends with a Z.
No.
There are at least half a dozen patents that talk about headings as having some value still. And they say headings using heading tags or approximating heading tags.
Yeah.
Without the use of heading tags. Things that look like headings because they're formatted in a way that make it look like they're heading content on a page.
Color and using italics, same thing. All those things will help with your SEO.
Or just making the text larger, even. Yeah.
I think Search Pilot did this test. The A/B testing system that
it wasn't part of a correlation test, was it? Because the next time I see another title of a thing that says we tested 8.9 million blog
pages.
Posts.
No, I think it was just doing data testing. To be honest, I'd have to, before I comment on that, I'd have to figure that out.
Sheer volume is no substitute for actual common sense.
Right. No, absolutely. But I think Search Pilot as a whole is pretty. I think they've got a pretty good idea.
I'm not very well educated. I've never heard of that one.
They're distilled when they split off from Brain Labs. They're the Will Critchlow and those guys.
That's probably why I don't know.
They've been around a while. They do turn out some pretty good reports.
Yeah, I like them a lot. Not to say that they're the only system. The only thing I don't like about it is you can't use it on Shopify, which is now the second largest CMS in the world, because they won't let you run reverse proxies, unfortunately.
So Terry, is Google serious about this? They released a statement saying you shouldn't build links to your site.
Well,
in 2011.
Too quick on that one. The original was a guy with two porn sites, a casino and like a bingo or site or something. He was saying, should I link to these casinos or get these links off of casinos? And John basically said, no. What do you think? And then he came back and said, oh, well, not to say that linking isn't good. I think they should stop calling it link building and call it audience building, because if you're doing it right, that's actually what you're doing.
So my earliest days on the web, I posted a classified ad in a Polish website that got responses from at least 2 clients who proceeded to form new corporations every week for 2 years. And they got this site through times of trouble. People were complaining about bursting bubbles. And these guys kept on forming corporations and using them for ships that were sailing from Europe to South America, bringing olives and stuff like that. And they were making money from those because it was a consistent audience every week. I mean, it was a terrific couple of websites. It was the last. I mean, DA is supposed to be an abbreviation for how good a link is supposed to be from a domain.
Wow.
These had no DAs that I know of. I didn't bother to check.
You can look at it this way. I was doing guest posting before Google was even around. So how could Google say I was doing it to rank higher on Google? I wasn't. It's a fucking smart thing to do. Makes sense. You know, that's why, you know, people who say, oh, Google says that's against the rules, or, well, you know, that's idiotic. Because I was doing it and people were doing it before Google was around. So what does that tell you? That's how the web works.
Now, sadly, I think there are people who do stuff like guest posting just to build links up to sites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they're useless. Because at some point, Google stops counting them. And then what are they good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
I mean, that's a good point. Just programmatically, they can reduce the power of links so easily, and people don't need to be notified. Why would they even take the time? You know, if someone's going to be building spam, why let them?
Here's the thing, right? That is so hard to do that you can spend almost the same amount of time getting good links as bad links, or links that won't last. So I'd rather do sustainable things that are always going to count, right?
Oh, of course.
So
I wrote a story at once, one day. I saw something at the United States Trademark and Patent Office that said that Google was assigned 1,000 patents from IBM, and I wrote a story about it. I went through all the patents. I found all the ones that affected search. There were like 15 of them out of 1,000. So I included those in my blog post. I ended up getting about 200,000 links over the next 3 months.
Jeez.
I had somebody from
that was
Bloomberg
worthwhile.
call me and ask me how I scooped them. I explained how you find link assignments on the USTPO website.
That's really handy.
It was very nice. It was amazing seeing all those links flow in.
geez, it's amazing how if you write something useful, people link to it. I mean, isn't that just
Radical.
freaking amazing?
Well, I've seen them coming from places like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal.
And links that really matter. Even if they're no followed.
Right.
Most of those
Because they have
ones
a
are
good domain
followed.
authority.
Well, just because Google sees no follow on a link, I don't think that means anything to them. If they, you know,
Not
It's from
now.
Wikipedia or
have
something
the right
big.
domain.
They
It's from a
made
site.
it clear. They said no follow used to mean a directive, and now no. We use that as a hint
A
clue, yeah.
suggestion,
to decide whether or not we're going to follow it or not.
Right.
That-
And they
that makes
also,
sense.
like, they don't have to necessarily follow the link to know the value of that page. If they've already indexed it, they know how many links are going to it. Your no follow link means nothing.
But the same thing, it's the same thing with no index. Just because you told them no index doesn't mean they're not going to index it.
But that I think they still obey in some ways. Like,
Well, they
unless
they
they're
don't
saying-
index it, but they still, no, they don't actually take the words, but it's indexed because it's in the fucking results. So
But
it's indexed.
it'll potentially be in the supplemental index. In other words, shit we don't show people.
Right, right.
I've
And
seen
then
it as a second result, where the page has suddenly gone offline, suddenly no indexed it, and Google just said this was here, but we don't have a picture anymore, but this is number 2.
I mean, we know it's not true because you can no index a page, remove it from the index using the Google Search Console, and 3 or 4 months later, it's back in the index. Even though you did those two things it should never come back, but it does because, you know, they
Matt
found it
told
relevant.
Dave and I that only lasted 6 months, and then you had to do it again.
Yeah.
And maybe again.
And there's no way to do them in bulk. At least I don't think there is.
So what their computer forgets?
I actually found 410 works pretty good, Steve.
Yeah. But I still want the page up. I still want people to go to the page. I just don't want Google to go to the page.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's
Well, you could give a
what they're doing.
410 response code and still show the page.
I haven't seen that work. Like, I mean, for a long, after like it's been indexed, 410s work after a period of time.
As soon as you do it,
Is that a
they actually take
is that
that
a
as
soft
meaning
410?
you want this deleted.
Right,
Stop indexing it.
right. That's what I thought. Yeah.
They
410 is
actually
some.
recommended that over using the removal tool because that's permanent, right? It stays in your hit access or whatever.
Yeah, it's supposed to be permanent. I heard you can revive them from the dead if you make a huge mistake, but it's not good. I don't know what you actually do if you. Yeah, well, I'd imagine that there's some sort of fix if it's a short period, but yeah, you just have to change the. I don't know what they would. Yeah, you'd have to resubmit them through a sitemap.
Oh, I think if you moved it back from a 410 to something else, Google would be all over it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Like, oh, we can index again. They don't care. They'll hit it if you suddenly say, "Oh, it's okay to index this," they'll hit it hard.
Pac-Man's hungry. Yep, they will. I agree.
So return to the days of search engines bragging about index sizes. Remember when Google would publish how many pages they knew about, and then Bing would
Yep.
publish a larger
Yeah.
number and say, we know more? And Google would come out with a new one that says, no, we know more.
Yeah, who has the bigger index?
Biggest index wins. I mean, it made sense at the time. I could understand people saying like, "Hey, this has more content," but I mean, if you actually once you used Google, you kind of realized that the rest was junk at the time, at least.
Most queries, anything past 10 doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter much.
Go
Pretty
number
much.
25. Like, interesting to see that Google is going to use the Bing / Cloudflare thing of index
They're
now.
testing it. They test lots of stuff. Doesn't mean they're even going to touch it with 10-foot pole.
It's true. They do a lot of testing.
Slow news day.
Hopefully they'll add it. It'd be a nice thing to have.
Does
if
it bring
adds
them
in.
anything new?
I don't know. It seems like it would. Like it would be able to actually take over for the sitemap in a few ways and do it a little quicker. So in some cases, maybe migrations and things like that, it might be very helpful.
Isn't Google already pinging? Aren't sites already
Yeah.
pinging Google when they have new content? From
Ping-o-matic. As soon as you publish anything on WordPress, it automatically pings. Oh,
Right,
sure.
but
or
if
the
you want,
pub sub hub dub thing?
There's that as well.
if you want all your, let's say you migrated a site, to a new domain, and you wanted all the redirects and everything indexed right away, you could do it essentially through Index Now, where Google, yeah, you're telling it you're migrating to a different domain, so and if there's URL changes, it should pick that up. But it's nice to at least know that you've told it, hey, get them all right now, pretty easily.
So it's a good tool for the people who are obsessive compulsive.
Yeah, or like if you want to make sure that you did a site migration, like a domain migration correctly, I would say it's a helpful tool. I wouldn't.
Or
I
a
would
new
use it.
site design, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to make sure everything Google's going to crawl is crawled. I think that would be a helpful thing. But at the same time, like I don't think it's the most important thing in the world. But
No. I
for
see it
Google
having
to-
some value if you've just done a new site design, you change your URL structures, something like that. That's about the only value I can see in it. Because like
Yeah.
you made mention in your notes, Terry, there's several different ways to accomplish this. And one of them is your XML sitemap. They're pretty darn on top of that.
Yeah. Well, they're supposed to grab it every time, but they don't.
You can
That's
submit
why I
10.
submit it monthly.
Also, like Search Console, I know there's a way to submit all of your URLs via Search
Not
Console, but
anymore.
Nope,
no,
they did away
there's-
with it.
I think.
I checked
think
this morning.
Okay,
There's
Oh,
no way to do
it's
that.
gone now. Okay,
Yeah.
so this would be. I mean, if it's up to 10,000, even if it's 10,000 a day or whatever, that's a substantial amount. I mean,
Google isn't going to hit any site 10,000 times in one day.
well,
Not
if you're
gonna
Wikipedia or something like that,
That would be overwhelming a server, for one thing.
Yeah, most
It
servers.
would,
Yeah.
it would violate politeness protocols.
Yeah.
but doesn't Google now look at what the server can handle? And theoretically, let's say you're on a cluster like Wikipedia and you could handle it.
Wow. I don't care whether they look at it and figure I can handle it. That's not the right way to do things, period.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's nothing that
Well, if
sitemap
you
wouldn't
work
do.
with crawlers and watch what they can do to a site,
Oh yeah, they can bring it to its
even
knees.
being an asshole and asking for a page every second, or, you should even space them out 15 seconds.
Oh
at
yeah,
least.
no, I agree with that.
You can't hit a server like that. It just, because usually don't fall asleep, Steve.
Nah, I'm fine.
I don't want to go off on a reverse proxy kick.
I know these
But-
topics just get you going so much.
It's been a hard week.
That's why I love the reverse proxy. So you can just keep hitting it. There's gosh, so the structured data changes with each. Sorry. So there'll be new structured data that Google will recognize.
Yeah, they just started recognizing the image object, but they've been that was one of the things I noticed when I was looking at AMP is they use that quite a bit, because with an image object in JSON, you can also use source set, which is a really cool way to do things. You can
That is
basically put all your sizes right in the JSON.
And the people at schema.org who are working on creating new stuff there are continuing to release new schema every couple months, new versions.
I like
Yeah.
that.
I stay on top of it, but I don't really see the need to start using stuff that they aren't actually supporting.
Yeah, when it gets to Google's system.
Well, you get about 20 emails a month from the schema.org mailing list. So it's not hard to keep up with.
No, especially Google doesn't change them that much. Any I see,
No.
we talk about them because that's something I look for in the news is changes to that, because those are the little things that can really help people. Right?
So what I'm looking at is an example, and it's looking at showing exposure time and the value of like how fast the lens clicked and everything like that. That's going to be interesting for everyone that deleted their metadata when they tried to shrink their images. They're going to go back and try to find this stuff. But I think it. I mean, for certain images, it'd definitely be valuable. I think in 10 years from now, what do you guys think? I think most of the web will have structured data markup probably automatically done by some CMS, along with everything else. You know, there'll be some sort of, yeah. I mean, if it's beneficial.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Where do they get the information? Because every time I do it, I have to go to Wikipedia.
To get the structured data info?
No, to get the info, to get the values that go into the structured data.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, you're not pointing at anything internally usually. You're pointing at something externally quite often.
Well, if you wanted to, but for internal, you could use XPath or CSS to highlight, or CSS path, or is it the CSX or something, where you just, if you made the template.
It's Wikipedia, so. Right.
Right.
That's what you're using as a reference. Or that's what I use anyhow.
But if you were going to create structured data on your site to make a snippet of, let's say in the future let's say just publication dates, they allow you to do that today. You could use, as long as it's in the same place on every template page, you could just have it highlighted with the XPath, and then have that be the variable, which would, it seems like we're going more and more towards that. Whether it's whatever type of object you're trying to mark up with structured data.
You talking about a data wrapper?
Like imagine you have like date published, date modified, and the type context. You just create like date published. And
Well,
then
that's in WordPress. Date modified, date published. 90% of what goes into the schema, you can pull right out of WordPress database.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. That's what you could do in the
That's
future.
how I do a lot of it. But the stuff that actually is good for SEO, you have to go and look it up.
You're talking
Which are about and mention types.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right for that type of thing. But on-site.
I'm not wrong very often.
No, but I was talking about like on-site structured data. Like if you wanted to mark up your own content, that you could use XPath and things like that. Sorry, yeah.
Have you worked with Google's data highlighter?
I have. I don't like it very much. To be honest
needs
with you.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, especially when they were doing microdata, geez, that thing was.
I don't think they've paid any attention to that since they implemented it, Bill.
I don't think they have either.
They turned it on, forgot about it, and one of these days somebody will notice it and they'll delete it.
Hopefully they'll fix it. That'd be cool.
They won't.
Oh, they'll deprecate it. They'll say, nah.
Not enough.
Nobody's using it. Yeah, they'll just say, because nobody's using it, we're going to do away with this. Well, nobody's using it because it's a piece of shit.
Right.
Yeah,
It
it's not
sounds
there.
cool, and you go there, and it's like,
It's terrible. Yeah, I tried to use it on a site, and I was just like, oh, come on now. With Tag Manager and JavaScript and all the other system plugins, it doesn't make much sense to use that stuff. Kind of showed up at the wrong time, I guess.
The idea has merit.
Oh yeah, if it worked perfectly, I would use it every day.
Yeah, properly done, it'd be a cool thing.
But you'd have the same template and it can't figure out anything. And you're like, no, and you got to go back, and it makes you crazy. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I thought I was doing something wrong with it. But
I feel like I tell it no more than I tell it yes.
oh yeah. I think we'll just cover the entire page. You want this to be the logo? Nope.
I haven't even been there in ages. I just gave up.
Keep coming back so somebody, it looks like somebody's using it, and then maybe they'll make it better.
Fire up the
Yeah.
bots.
Yeah. Pay for an entire click farm and somewhere. So no, like this is old news too. Sorry, but I'll mention it. Basically, interstitials for legal reasons. Like I remember I did things for a vodka company. It's like if you're 21, yeah, that's kind of needed, you know. Or I imagine cigarettes, or if you're 18, things that people have to tell the truth on.
Well, then you got stuff like privacy statements, the GDPR warning, cookie warnings, those things. And I
Yeah.
was initially concerned about that. You know, is Google going to get a hair up their butt and start hammering sites that have cookie warnings pop up? So it's nice to hear them formally state that that's not going to be an issue.
It'd be nice if they
that
took it
was
off the
the
site
video.
speed.
No, I
be
don't
great
think
if
there's any.
They're
I don't
not
think
gonna
that's
do
going
that.
to happen.
What do you guys think of their new site speed tool? The new Google. Have you guys seen that?
Haven't played with it yet.
I haven't played with it.
It actually, on all Shopify sites, it gives you an error message at the bottom for Lighthouse. Every one of them.
Nice.
That's sweet.
Makes sense to me.
It says it's not HTML.
Warning Shopify site detected.
No, yeah, all Shopify sites, because there's something with the headers, because of the way the proxies are set up, it's somehow making a mistake and sending wrong data to the speed tool. And I haven't found, if anyone can find a Shopify site that works, I'd love to see it. Unfortunately, I tried 15 using BuiltWith to find them, and no luck. Is that my headset that's doing that?
That's true.
I hear typing.
We're gonna blame Doc.
Not me.
Well, Mr. Guest.
Oh. All right, friends. Corey Gruber, I'm mispronouncing that so badly. Sorry. Hey, man. I'm going to switch my headset. I apologize.
Oh, and the noise just went away. So guess who it was?
Hey, Corey. Well, it's perfect.
I saw the new kerfuffle about bold words in SEO again. We were talking about that a little earlier before the show. It's like,
Was not me.
You just had me wonder if we're going to see a lot more bold words on the web.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee we will.
I was looking for something yesterday, and I landed on a website, or literally every second or third word in every paragraph was bolded. It's like anything that was conceivably anywhere near a keyword phrase or keyword, they bolded. I thought, and so I went. I looked to see in the archive to see if this was something they did this yesterday because of some article they read. No, it was that way back in 1999 too. You know?
That's the type of thing that I write in an audit. When you emphasize everything, you emphasize nothing.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. Right. So that
Well,
was the way
I also saw a prospect one time. They actually they wanted to make a paragraph look like a call out, so they actually made it an H2, the entire paragraph.
the whole paragraph.
Yeah, and not one time. All of their posts, every single post had a blurb in it, and every single one of them was the entire paragraph as an H2. Well, is that not a good practice? I said, well, it's mildly better than making it an H1, okay?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's
So it
what I was
heads-
trying
so
to
it
say
heads
earlier
nothing.
about lots of bold words. It looks, I mean, it just loses
All SEO traction.
all importance, and it looks to me like what are those things called? Affiliate scheme.
Sales letters. Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks so not good.
I
Certainly not classy. I mean, if I were a site visitor and this is me, and I came to a website that had every other, word, phrase, and verb bolded, I would be gone. I would just be gone.
I even find it, to a lesser level, I even find it distracting when I'm reading a Wikipedia article, and
Uh-huh.
everything that has an internal link is shown as
Just
an
like-
anchor text. And I find that
right.
distracting,
That
okay?
is distracting.
And that's not as visually disruptive as bolding,
See,
I
but
would
when
say-
I'm using Wikipedia, I use those links.
Oh, I do too. But
I use
it's
them
still,
too,
when
but
you're just trying to get the gist of a paragraph, it is kind of distracting.
Suppose.
But it makes sense for them, It's informative too. It's just,
Oh, I
to do
wouldn't
that
do
on a
it
blog.
any other website, but for instance, why I mention it is I've been using Spotify lately, and to get the discographies, I use Wikipedia because they
Wow.
don't always list all the albums that a band has made, especially most of the stuff I'm looking for on there is like from the 60s and 70s. So, I have to use Wikipedia to get the numbers right, get the right disc for it.
Yeah.
And I found those links really easy because when it mentions the album, I can click it and go to that page on the album and get all the hits off that
Exactly.
album, right? Saves me listening to all the tunes on the album.
Well, I think another thing about Wikipedia doc and links is when you're going to Wikipedia, you're looking for information. So even
Different.
though
Yeah,
those links can
exactly.
be distracting, it's not, you're like, okay, so they gave me a link to further investigate. But if you did that on a web page, it would be very distracting.
No, that's my point. I find it, even at a much lighter level on Wikipedia, if I found that distracting, then somebody's blog post that they've got every third word bolded is just going to drive me up
Yeah.
a tree. I'm going
Yeah, it drives
Or
me
even
nuts.
that are linking to, every article that they've ever written to is linked to from every
Yeah.
article that uses that word on the page. I was checking out a program, and that was one of the things that did, and I turned that part of it off. I just don't want links made indiscriminately like that.
There was a plug-in one time. One of my clients a few years ago was using that I got rid of. It was what it would do is on a WordPress site, it would find in your post any word that appeared in the title of any post or page on the site. It would turn it into a link to that page or post. And Jesus. It was just, I said, you got to get rid of this thing. This is what looks stupid. You've got an extra 114 links on a 500-word blog post. What's wrong with this picture?
I think I know which plugin you're talking about, Terry.
Oh, that I was just using?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just I don't like the idea of some tool
No.
deciding,
I want to do that myself.
deciding
Do
what
it myself,
links should
yeah.
appear on my page.
Yeah. Well, it was in links that does that.
Yeah.
And I just turned that part of it off, which you can't do with that. So,
Yeah, that's fine. You can opt out of that.
yeah.
There's times when that's a valuable thing to be able to do.
But if you're doing your job right, you shouldn't need that program, right?
You shouldn't need to automate it at all.
Right. You should think as you're writing it, oh, that's a good place to link to this article because it's actually pertains. It gives you more details about what you're talking about.
Right. It's an intentional link, as it were.
Right. But there's also another technique is they'll set up a glossary, and every time that term is used, they'll link to the glossary thing. Well,
No.
I don't know how well that works either. I would do it on pages that rank really well, but I wouldn't do it on every page. Just like I don't think SEOs really understand the value of, just because it works, more of it doesn't necessarily mean it works better or at all.
If a little bit's good, a lot's better, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That often is not the case at all.
Yeah, as I once told a client, title attributes in HTML can work with almost any element. And I come back the next day and look at the code of the site, and it's like titles are everywhere. I contacted her. I said, it's not quite what I meant.
Don't take me quite so literally.
However, if you use that correctly, it's really nice for accessibility.
Yeah. And then, there's a lot of things now, like forms where you're required
to
put titles on form fields, which a lot of form plugins don't allow. So, depending on which form plugin you're using for your website, you may or may not be accessibility compliant.
ADA.
Yep.
Or maybe you have your own forms and aren't using a plugin.
But it still has to be ADA, I think is what he's getting at. Like you have to have the labels correct for the Americans with Disabilities Act, according to that, or get sued by random attorneys.
Yeah. Thanks, random attorney.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up and seeing that this is getting some traffic and making money. Getting sued by a random attorney is the highest form of compliment you're doing this. No, it shows that you've done your job and the company's making money, right?
Okay, so handicap compliance and SEC compliance. Are there any other fields which attorneys turn into bounty hunters?
Yeah.
Ambulance chasers.
Privacy is a big hunting ground right now.
COPA, Children's Online Privacy.
GDPR, CCPA, PIPEDA, those.
Yeah.
That's generating an awful lot of ambulance chasers.
Hell, just getting sued gets you chased. As soon as somebody files a court case against you, it fires up all the lawyers who buy up all the new court case data every day.
Yeah, I once got a speeding ticket, and I got postcards from at least 12 different attorneys within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
I wonder who sold them my address.
The county.
The judge that got 20%.
Your tax dollars at work, Bill.
Yeah.
No.
I used to work in the private investigation people search niche, and this was before the internet was a big deal, and we had people at every single courthouse in Northern California every day. That's all they did was go and collect all the court records from the day before. And
I worked at a court. I worked with those people.
yeah, And
I used to have to slap on the wrist every once in a while.
yep, because we want more data than you want to give us.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works. But yeah, we built a website for the company that I don't remember the name of them now, but we had all the people in the courthouses, and then we put all that information on our website, and then people would pay to subscribe to the website rather than having their own people at the courthouse. Did very well for a few years. And then the courthouses went, hey, we could put this data online ourselves. We're like, oh, please don't do that.
That's my business.
You don't
Well,
know how hard that is to do. You really don't want to be in that business.
I'm glad I had my red sports car before any of that happened. I got 3 speeding tickets in 1 year, and I was like, okay, end of red sports car life.
Aw.
Yeah, I know. It's really true. Red ones go faster and they notice.
Have you guys?
I had that problem when I had my vet too, and but I got a feeling that my driving style might have had something to do with those.
Well, my driving style probably had something to do with it too, but you know, I had the same driving style in a little old lady blue Toyota Corolla, and nobody ever stopped me.
You know, my wife went through the same thing. We had a red Corvette, and when we sold the Corvette and she started driving this crap brown Ford Taurus, her driving never changed, but the number of tickets she got certainly did.
Yeah, it really does make a difference.
You think it has to be a sports car to make a difference?
Red.
I think it happens to be a sports car make a difference. I had a friend who cheaped out and bought the crummiest car he could find. It looked fast. It didn't work too well. He got pulled over by a cop, and the cop said, I'm pulling you over because you're speeding. You're doing 65 in the area. My friend looked at him and started laughing.
It won't do
Why are you
65.
laughing? Say, here are the keys. You see if you can make this car go 65. You can't.
Yeah, I had a red Range Rover, and I've had a bunch of others that are with the same model and different colors, and that one never got pulled over any more than the others. So I believe that a red sports car makes a lot of sense.
I tried to solve the problem once, and I told my mechanic, I said, listen, I found this navy blue Alpha sports sedan, and his eyes lit up, and I went, you do not want your mechanic's eyes to light up when you mention a vehicle. I didn't get that one.
Yeah, I can understand that. I had a Fiat one time, and it spent more time on the rack than it did on the street.
Oh, my sister had a Fiat. That was, things just kind of went their own
Italian
way.
cars have like a soul almost. They're like British cars. They're beautiful. They just run great. When they run great, they run great. When they don't, they really don't.
It's a mystery.
Yeah,
They just choose to wake up one morning and not run.
exactly. They have something really special about them, but reliability is not one of them. It's amazing to see how that can happen. So, there was a issue of Search Engine Roundtable where Google was teeter-tottering on the edge of Core Web Vitals, where the guy was showing a bunch of mountains, basically, of hitting almost 100% and then going back down to 0. And it looks like what everyone said is right, that he's basically he's not losing speed, he's losing traffic, and because Google is 61% of the web across the world right now, he's only getting 61% of the traffic that he should be. I wonder if Google corrects for that, but that would be probably causing it. for the core web vitals to be dropping 100% in and out, but they slowly go down, slowly go up. I bet if they compared that with their traffic, it would match up identically.
I don't know. Did anyone else get the vague email from Google this morning about, their new practices? And essentially it said nothing.
No, I didn't get that.
Oh, okay. We're going
Would
to
this
keep
be the
you
one
abreast
telling-
of all these changes.
Was this the one that's telling you that they're not bad people and the
Yeah,
government trying to interfere with them is bad for business?
That sounds like the DMV letter I got from California. It said, "We're sorry for being assholes, but that's our job."
We're
It's
not
our
gonna
job, yeah.
No license to be assholes. Oh man.
Well, if Google actually tells me something, I'll let you know.
Do you think that Google is going to? Has anyone heard they've been reducing the amounts of manual penalties?
Reducing?
Yeah. Not seeing as
I haven't
many.
heard it, but I would think that probably makes sense since they're doing so much algorithmically, like sorting which links to even pay any attention to, for instance. So it makes sense because those manual actions require some effort on their part.
Yeah.
Google reminds me of the liquor stores or the bars in Maryland when I lived in Delaware. And you would come over from Delaware to Maryland and try to buy a case of beer. And you would ask how much it was, and they would respond with, "How much do you have?"
That's a good deal.
It is a good deal.
Just keep $10 in one pocket and hide your other money.
Well, it's like when I'm out on the street here with my wife, and she sees something, she wants to go in and look at something to buy. She wants me to wait outside. But she says if they see a gringo, they're gonna triple the price.
Yeah.
And it's not untrue.
Makes sense.
I did find when I was in Baja that there is a middle ground, because definitely gringo here, but in a small town, if you were friendly and talked to people, the prices went down.
Oh yeah.
I was essentially there with a group who never went into town, and I went into town every day and talked to people, and people took me on tours of the ice house and all this other stuff, and then somebody else took me on to the place where they made all the tortillas. And anyway, I would just friendly and talk to people, and my prices just went, and other people would come back and say, "Oh, I had to pay blah 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 for whatever," and I'm I just kept my mouth shut. Maybe you shouldn't be such a gringo jerk,
Yeah. Don't be an ugly American.
Don't be an ugly American. Yeah.
We have that here.
Unless you're in France. Unless you're in France, there being an ugly American, I highly encourage.
Oh no, I found the same thing in France. I had an apartment in France, and I was in the Southwest, which is much more casual and friendly than some other part. But I found people extraordinarily friendly and helpful.
Well, generally, it's like you say, it's going to be. It depends on how you act. If you treat people right, they're usually going to treat you right. And if you're going to be a jerk, they're going to show you how to be a jerk.
Yeah. I mean, even when I had to go to the tax office, and deal with, French bureaucracy, people were still pleasant and kind. So I really do think it's just like anywhere. It depends on your humanity and your behavior.
Well, I think too, when you go someplace, like for instance, you go down to Cozumel here in Mexico, which is this little island, which is nothing but probably 350, 400 tourist shops, all of which measure about 150 square feet. Okay, and the only business they get out there is these cruise ships.
Oh, right.
And most of those cruise ships are Americans and Canadians. Very few Europeans ever get off of those. And most Americans are assholes. Because they expect you to speak English, they expect you to understand everything they expect you, and they demand it, and you're an idiot if you don't, you got to shop, you should speak English. Hey, you're in fucking Mexico, you should speak Spanish, But when you consider the fact that those shop owners, these are the people that they're dealing with all day, every day, it's not surprising that some of them can get a little bit short-tempered, And they kind of expect you to be another jerk, So, if you're in the tourist area, you kind of got to expect to get pigeonholed like another tourist.
My saying.
Being, if you're a tourist, don't act like a tourist is the very first thing I would say.
One of my favorite sayings is you can get more with a kind word and a 2x4 than you can with just a kind word.
Very true.
We've been going out a lot lately here, and these poor waiters and waitresses are just being run ragged.
Oh yeah.
And we were at a restaurant we don't go to very often just last week, and the table next to us was just being assholes about the whole thing. And about halfway through dinner, I looked at my wife and she goes, "Hold on," because she knew I was about ready to say something, and she looked at me and goes, "Why are you such assholes?" And I'm like,
I love it.
You got
Stole your thunder.
You got problems.
Totally stole your thunder, Steve.
It's like,
Right.
this poor woman who normally would have had 4 or 5 tables over the course of dinner was running like half the restaurant. It's like, come on, give the lady a break. Wow, I need my soda. It's like, well, too bad. You could wait another 5 minutes. You won't die of thirst.
Never know.
Corey, actually, the guy who was here, he wrote a few things on semantic search that I think cite you, Bill. Some pretty good stuff. And I've gotten my first very nice compliment from the audience.
It's not in bold, though.
No, it's not as important. But
it's not very important, or it would be all bold.
My shame will last forever. It's got punctuation, though. Oh, yeah, here. Please bold that. No.
You get that new domain name, the Handsome SEO.
Instead of trying to be called an expert or Oracle.
I wonder if you ask
response.
Google who's the handsomest SEO.
There you go.
That might be easy to rank for too. Yeah.
And how many of us are logging into our domain purchaser of choice?
We're going to have a lot of fun with the correlation aspects of that too.
Yeah. Handsome by like animal standards or.
Oh no, we can go ahead and set
Who's
up a
the
hot or not
handsomest
website.
SEO?
Put all the SEOs on it.
Is there already a hot or not for SEO?
I was going to say that sounds kind of sexist. We'd have to have one for the women too.
Yeah,
Handsome isn't gonna.
You got to be equal about everything. All standards. Okay.
And plus, multi-gendered to boot, so none of the above was going to have to be a category.
We'll put it as a subtopic of woke SEO.
I'd like to send all the trolls to none of the above.
I think, yeah, no, so, gosh, what do you guys think about what do you think the benefit of having, I don't know, let's say your competitor has a site that's 4 seconds load time, you have a site that's 1.5. When you're in the same niche, what do you think the benefit's going to be if most competitors have an average of, let's say, 3?
Not enough to try to get the extra half a second off of there to get it down under 1.
No, if you have a
really
1.5 load time and your
Yeah.
competitors on average have 3,
I really believe that site speed is more of a tiebreaker
It is.
actual factor. So, and
But
there's so many other things that will
if
carry
the-
so much more weight.
if the average is, if it's a true tiebreaker and everyone's somewhat similar, like let's say it's like a bunch of dentists or lawyers,
Mhm.
and then you can get quite a ways with a tiebreaker.
Yeah, you can. But then again, you could also turn around with a decent GMB profile and destroy whatever page speed is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when you're doing local now, it's all about maps. And, oh, wait a minute, it's not the Google My Business profile anymore. It's now what, the Google
Something
Google your business profile.
Yeah,
You own your
business
profile.
GPP.
Property of Google profile.
The fifth
It took
name
me
it's
2
had
years to
now.
stop saying AdWords.
That's
Well, they don't have to worry about that anymore because they took Google Plus profiles away.
rats. This is my favorite social
Mine
media
too,
site.
boy.
Had the Google going for it, and that's about it.
I feel bad for all the people who put all that time into Google Plus.
Yeah.
All my
I mean, there were some
minutes.
people who put a lot of effort into it and were very successful with it in things other than SEO. And I mean,
Oh, yeah.
musicians and chefs and
Yeah.
all
They're
this
probably-
time they spent working on Google Plus instead of YouTube.
YouTube or Facebook or anything that's still around. Even MySpace is still around technically.
Is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't go there, but it's there.
Wow.
You can see my rockin' profile. I'm friends with Tom, and you can blast guitar when you join. No, great UX. Has anyone seen Speakable structured data actually be worth anything? I noticed that. Oh, okay. You can't use. Oh, I just got the bold. Okay, so Speakable structured data, where that's being used. Instead of you have like Poly or whatever system actually talk to you. Wall Street Journal uses it a lot, and I've found it really helpful. Where they actually have an AI voice read the words to you of the content.
Google introduced speakable markup schema markup early as beta, only for news sites. Before speakable graduated in schema to an actual published thing. When they published it, the people at Google said you can use it for more than just news sites now. I asked Danny Sullivan about that, and he said, yeah, it's free to use all different types of sites.
Have you seen any data on how well it's working? As far as like, I'm sure ADA it helps a lot.
No.
No. I've noticed a lot of online newspapers like Wall Street Journal and other ones have it built in now. Those are just news sites.
But it's no longer just limited to news sites. I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I remember when it was. That was it's like 2 years ago they changed it to everything, maybe 3.
Maybe a year.
Yeah. I would think that would be beneficial if it didn't slow the site load time down too much. I'm trying to figure out a way to get there's an issue with, like you guys were talking about, interstitials that are for legal reasons that Google doesn't penalize against. But for site speed, how to get interstitials to load as quickly without deferring them? Because even if you defer them, Google will wait in some cases and then tag that onto your time. So I've always found that to be a little bit annoying. Or maybe make it just a solid static object.
Well, making it a static object would probably be something that you could do in a lot of situations, and that would definitely help you speed. Then you can dick around with it and really speed the thing up. But if it's a dynamic pop-up of some sort, I don't think that Google's ever going to back off of counting it against you in terms of speed. Not their problem, you know.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think that for site speed, like you just said, static, change everything that's a pop-up or anything over to static, and you'll get a much better load time. But surprisingly, we've been having issues with a lot of the systems that work like reCAPTCHA, but not reCAPTCHA, but systems similar to them, slowing down sites, and that's been annoying. So they use JavaScript, and then they'll add their own jQuery in. It's But just a curious question: anyone running any JavaScript sites that are just pure Java, not preloaded, not pre-rendered?
Not me.
I'm an SEO. Someone suggest that to me, I did.
I agree, not the best idea. But for a while there, Google said it would be almost the same thing, then it'd be the same, and now they're kind of walking that back.
Google has said forever they can index JavaScript. I've yet to see them do it efficiently.
Right.
So whenever you use it, it's a risk that it's going to hurt indexing.
One thing I've had a lot of luck with is internal linking, going through and with Tableau and going through and figuring out the URL for the final page, seeing if it matches the some of the text in the source page, and then light that up, point it towards the target page. Light it up, I mean, make it into a hyperlink, point it towards the source page. So let's say like your source page is about example, and you're selling blue widgets, and your target page is / blue widgets. Then you would point the blue widget hyperlink towards that. Does that make sense?
It's looking like we're at the top of the hour, so we may have to let that go as today's cliffhanger. See if we have somebody come up with an answer for it next week.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, everybody, for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Have
all.
a good week. Bye now.
Bye.